Good morning, Milwaukee. It's a beautiful day in Milwaukee. It's April 30th. First trimester complete. No. You look, in corporate America, they look at things in weeks, months, quarters, trimesters, biannually, annually. And they look at it on a rolling 12 months, rolling 24 months. When you see companies, it's the way that they want to, when they have to report quarterly financials, there's different ways they look at it to help them tell a certain story, right? And so if you've never heard of trimester, it does not always have to correlate to somebody having a baby. Even though I know a lot about that. Anyways, as we digress and get totally off tracks, mission, vision, values, beliefs, and perspectives. Two things I want to share with you today. First up, I think there's two shining examples of how this shows up within our world this week. First, I think our mission statement's incredibly powerful. And it's funny, I was in an event last week and they talked about how mission statements can't just live on a paper. They have to live. They have to it's like the senses, right? I'm a big senses person. You have to see it, feel it, touch it, taste it, smell it, and everything else in between from a sense standpoint. And they were challenging the group around how your mission, your vision statement, your values, beliefs, and perspectives show up in a way that your people feel it, know it, taste it, touch it, smell it, see it, hear it, whatever else is in there, right? And so the reason why I lead this with you and lead examples of what this looks like is because what I'm trying to help you understand and see is how this shows up within our world. And we talk about to build careers worth having, businesses worth owning, lives worth leaving, experiences worth giving, legacies worth leaving, right? And there's three really great examples that I'm going to go through today as to how that shows up within our world. Okay, first, and I've been talking about this over several weeks, but I think it's an important part of who we are and how we help build culture and community and give back. We've talked about Give Where We Live and Red Day, okay? So far, as of this morning, as of 10 minutes ago, we have 172 people who have registered. It's 31% of our total roster in southeastern Wisconsin. And I'm incredibly grateful and appreciative of the call to action to this group and how we can make a huge impact. There was a big influx in people who signed up for the Hunger Task Force Farm last week. So thank you for that. And it's next week, Thursday, May 9th. Some of it's half a day, some of it's full day, some of it's just in the afternoon, some of it's just in the morning. But if you need a way to get out, release a little stress, get to know a little bit more about the people that you work with, it's a great way to do that. And I think as we talk about experiences worth giving and legacies worth leaving, this is a great example of how we do that and how that shows up. Okay. Another way that this shows up is we talk about a little bit around results, success through people. And I'm bringing up the graphic that we created around our results through 2023 and some of the highlights that we achieved during a really, really difficult market, in having a local economic impact of over $60 million, giving away over $100,000 in philanthropic giving to southeastern Wisconsin organizations, or profit sharing $886,000 back to our associates, to those that helped us build this community and cultivate this community. Like, its results and how we do it through the people is what makes it incredibly special. So last week on Friday, Mandy and I went to a breakfast that we thought was going to be a little small breakfast, and we showed up and there was 700 people there. And I admittedly had never been to this breakfast. I didn't know what to expect of this breakfast, but it was the Top Workplaces breakfast. And we were invited because they said, hey, like, you guys didn't come last year. We would really appreciate it if you came this year. So I was like, hey, Mandy, at 7 o'clock, let's fight through traffic, get our kids to school and daycare. Let's go to Brookfield and let's see what this is about. Yeah, I had the same reaction. But let me give you a little bit of a context, because every fall we ask you guys to fill out a completely anonymous survey that comes through Energage, okay? And they've been doing this survey for 18 years across the country. They've interviewed, or the survey results are 27 million people. In total across the US, it's 70,000 companies have participated. Locally here in southeastern Wisconsin, the Journal Sentinel has been running this for the last 5 years. And last year alone, there were over 300 companies who participated, and there were 61,000 employees who were surveyed. Okay. It's a cross section of industry too. That's the cool part. It's not just like a real estate award. It's a everything award. And in the presentation around culture and community and things like that, they talked about how top workplaces outperform average organizations. And they looked across the 70,000 organizations that have participated and how those that achieve in the top 10% status outperform industry peers as a cross section of whatever it is that they do and how they measure results. Typically, the most fulfilled, purposeful people within where it is that they work, those that find the most amount of purpose outperform others. I was like, yeah, sweet. That makes pretty good sense. And I share that with you because I was like, yeah, I think that correlates well to our group. And I know I've shared this a lot, but the reason why I've shared this a lot is to reinvigorate or reinforce, like, I think we as a group really enjoy each other. And I think we as a group really enjoy collaborating, and some of the things that we did yesterday or how we show up in the masterminds and things like that is how it shows up in our Q1 results, right? So on Sunday's edition of the paper, this is kind of like a long story short. On Friday, we were announced the #1 top workplace in all of southeastern Wisconsin. This is all locations too, by the way. This is inclusive of, it is, I stole it this morning. It's inclusive of Tosa, Lake Country, New Berlin, Germantown. We sent the survey out to all 600 associates. The beautiful thing about the survey is these are your own anecdotal, it's your feedback as to what you believe your partnership is. The coolest part about it is there wasn't a real estate company in the top 5 other than us. We took out companies like West Bend Mutual Insurance. I'll tell you a really cool little sidebar story because I like telling this. I think it's a good story. You know, I've been trying to cultivate this whole locker room series of bringing in people within my network to come speak to you guys, right? And just cross section of different people. And so we reached out to Quick Trip and we said, hey, would your VP of customer service like to come and speak to our group around how Quick Trip approaches their customer service? And I thought it would be a really easy yes. And you know what I got back? Thanks, but no thanks. We compete against you in the top workplaces survey. You don't need any help. And I said, okay. So the reason why I share this with you is from the bottom of my heart. It means the world to me. It really does. Because we work our asses off to serve you every day. And to have you guys say that about us makes me feel good. And I think it really lifts our leadership teams up to, you know, sometimes when the days are shitty or the days are long, you look up and you say, God, like, at least we're doing it for a reason, or at least we're doing it for, like, those that we do it for recognize that we're trying our best. And it may not always be the right answer, and it may not always be the answer or the service that you want, or there may be things that we do that bug you. But I think by and large, like, thanks for recognizing that it's a good place, right? So, I'll finish with a really good self-deprecating story to get over the, my feels, okay? So, we go to this breakfast. We walk in, I'm like, holy shit, there's 700 people here. Hold on, I gotta recognize one other thing. As a sidebar, we are also rated across all industries, all company, the #1 training and education company within our space, which to me is something we take a lot of pride, a lot of thought, a lot of energy into. Again, it's not always perfect. We're trying to figure out and navigate the way. But I know a lot of organizations who spend a lot of time, energy, and effort and resources in thinking about their training and education. So to be recognized as #1, to me, it's something I was incredibly proud of on Friday. So, all right, back to the self-deprecating story. So we show up, we walk into this room of 750 people. I'm like, oh shit, what did I sign up for? Why am I here? I don't know. So I walk in and Also, 80% of the gentlemen in the room are wearing sport coats and suits. 80% of the women are wearing dresses. Everybody looks really nice. 20% of the group is wearing like things that they're really proud of within their organization. It's not that bad. I didn't wear Carhartt overalls. Yeah. I didn't bring Carhartt overalls and carry an axe. Okay. But I showed up wearing a pair of jeans and a sweater. And I realized had I known that we were going to win these awards and get called up in front of 700 of our peers, I think I would have put a sport coat on. But I share that with you because the other thing that I would just, again, it like to me, this is what gets me up every day. It's what keeps us motivated. And we don't talk about it a lot because it's not about us. We always try to make everything about you guys and how we serve you and how we help you overcome your objections and things like that. But I also had a little bit of a moment of reflection this weekend because I was kind of like, how big of a deal is this? And then I realized, oh, we were number one in 24. We were number one in 23. We were number one in 22. It's a three-peat for us in number one. And it will drive us to continue to serve you guys every single day to make sure that we're number one again in 25. And ultimately, as I say within the brokerage business, like you guys vote with your own 2 feet. The survey results are all of your own. Like you guys determine that based on what it is that we do to serve you and provide for you. So with that, I just wanted to say thank you for everything that you guys, did to recognize us. So thanks. Yeah, I will.
Yeah. Yeah, will there be a post or a slide?
Yes. So as you can tell, I was really prepared for this moment. The team is working on digital assets, physical assets, a variety of ways to help us tell this story, because I know one thing, like we're really good about telling our internal story, but we're not great at always telling our external story. And so we're working on to get that out to you guys this week. Brannick and I met on that yesterday. Cool. Sweet. Thanks, guys. With that, I'm flipping it over to Lindsay for content creation.
All right. So if anyone was at the event yesterday, Jeff Glover talked a lot about content creation in regard to his 5-step listing presentation. And I thought, wow, like what a great time to remind the group about our 12 Direct campaign and some of the content that we create so that you guys can really showcase yourself as not just the market expert, but as the community expert. And that's really what the goal of this is. So whether you're reaching out to your past clients or just everyone in your database, your sphere of influence, or your neighborhood farm, you can provide them value and content that serves a purpose. And again, showcases you as the community expert. And so, this is the time of year where this is probably the most popular and the most asked about campaign is farmers markets. So this is live. This is available for you guys right now. It's uploaded to all of the places where you can just grab these materials and start utilizing them. New this year, we actually have a Milwaukee area list of farmers markets as well as the Madison area. So those folks out in Lake Country, Madison area, we've got content for you as well. And so like always, this is not just a postcard that you can mail out. We do have these created as an email campaign in command. It is ready to go. And then you can always just grab and go that image file, post it to social media or, anything that you want to do with it. So this is your material, you guys. This is your content. Utilize it. We can personalize it for you. There's really sky's the limit with all of this. And don't forget, we have an entire library of 12 direct campaigns. So it's not just the farmers market. We've got other relevant content that you can send out for spring, whether it's dog parks, hiking trails, local beer gardens. So all available if you want to scan that QR code, that'll get you to that Google Drive folder with all of those available resources. And again, postcard, email, social media post, all there. Switching gears a little bit. So I just wanted to talk about some of the trainings that we have available because we are kind of changing it up for the month of May and moving forward. But this Thursday, May 2nd at 11 a.m. on Zoom, we're going to be doing a command and tech update call. So really just going through some of the more recent updates that Keller Williams has implemented within command. And as of yesterday, they just released a new one. So they now have their very own AI chatbot integrated within command. So if anyone's logged into their command account as of yesterday, you may have noticed in the bottom right corner, a little teal circle with 3 stars. And so that is now your KWIQ. So that's your very own AI chatbot integrated within command. So this is a really exciting feature, you guys. You can ask it questions on any KW models or systems, such as the MREA, the Shift Book, or the One Thing. There's Ignite content loaded in here. Every single KW playbook is loaded in, and you can also ask questions about command. Content creation, again, circling back to content creation, it's in there if you need it for social media posts. If you're scheduling posts through command and you need content, utilize the KWIQ. If you're looking to write your own blog posts for your website or creating your own email campaigns. So as you can see on the screen here, just a little preview of how this works. You click on that button and you start typing in your prompt, ask it questions. So if you're looking to, okay, I'm holding my first open house this weekend. How do I hold a successful open house? It's going to pull content from that open house playbook and really break it down for you. How do you prep for an open house? How do you hold that open house? How do you make that successful? So it's all in command, you guys, brand new. So we're going to be talking more about that on Thursday during this call. And then moving forward, I teased this a little bit last week, but we've got our social branding boot camp coming up. The first one begins May 16th. So the week, that Thursday after Red Day. And just a breakdown of some of the topics that we'll be covering in the month of May. The first one is an intro to social media marketing. So if you just want to start dipping your feet into social media and kind of learn more about it, what platforms to use, kind of the best practices with Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, and really where to get started, differences between a personal account, a business page, and then we're going to talk about your brand creation on the 22nd. And then we're going to be diving into Canva. How do you use Canva? What kind of things can you do with it? Best practices there, and more to come. So you'll see all of those trainings and the specific topics on our May training calendar as well. And that's going to be through the month of August. So a lot of really good content, you guys. Really excited for some of these things. Reach out if you have any questions. Join me on Thursday. That one's going to be on Zoom and recorded. So if you can't make it, we've got those recording on YouTube. That's it.
All right. Here to protect you, here to protect and serve the compliance team to give you your weekly update. So, Lieutenant Staff, Sheriff Reed, what do we got?
Good morning, everybody. Sheriff Reed here with not the nicest topic to talk about, but it's something that I know Steph gets a lot of questions on, and I certainly get a lot of questions on, because we don't want to be prepared for a camera. We don't want to be prepared for a transaction terminating. But this is sort of a heads up if it does happen, so that you are professionally prepared in these situations. You can still definitely call us, but this is the step-by-step. The usual scenario when a camera isn't signed, the camera really means cancellation agreement and mutual release. And it means about release from release of the earnest money, and it also means release of any liability toward each other. It is a mutual agreement. So the usual scenario when the buyer wants to terminate an offer is that he has a legitimate way out. He has a contingency in the offer that couldn't be met. Sort of like financing is unavailable, and that usually is accompanied, the notice is accompanied with a letter from the lender saying cannot be financed. So it's a notice to the offer to purchase plus the letter plus the reason and the evidence. Or a notice of defects was sent and the seller did not cure, didn't have the reason to cure. Notice is sent, the notice of defects, and the camera is sent. Or appraisal is too low, you don't have a solution to that. A notice is sent and a copy of the appraisal is sent. So with that notice and the cancellation agreement, mutual release, the buyer is protected by the unmet contingencies and should be able to terminate and get their earnest money back. And I always hedge it with should be able to get their earnest money back because this becomes a legal stalemate in some situations. The reaction from the seller should be to sign the camera and all's well and terminated and the earnest money is returned to the buyer. That's in a lovely tied up world, but we know what can happen. Next slide. The seller's mad. The seller didn't see it coming, thought everything was fine, didn't hear about the appraisal yet, couldn't cure the defects, and the letter from the lender says that they cannot get the financing. But the seller's mad. He's got his moving truck ready, he's all set to go, he's probably has another property tied up with the closing of this property, and so he just puts his head in the ground and said, I'm not signing it. We've had that happen. I've had calls on that happening. Sometimes my response is just be a little patient. He'll come around. He really doesn't have a reason not to sign it. But they can be very angry about it and just won't refuse to sign. So he's not making it easy on the buyer to terminate. So there's no release or delivery of earnest money. What does the buyer do if they want to write on another property? Can the seller move on and accept another offer? Can the buyer move on and write on another property? The answer to that is attorney. And if you and I can't give the solution to this, the seller would need to get an attorney. If he refuses to sign, maybe he has good reason not to sign. A buyer can get an attorney to see what can be done, to see if he can move on and write on another property. But these are topics now that are legal topics and not for us to define. Next slide. So, but there are circumstances too where the buyer is kind of off in left field, doesn't have a cause, doesn't send a notice. He just sends a camera over. He is actually in default of the offer. And he's in now a legal situation where he doesn't have much to defend him. He sends the camera because he has a change of mind, buyer's remorse, doesn't want to buy the property. And I've certainly seen and lived through many of these situations. The seller does not sign the camera and the offer is still binding to closing. The seller may initiate his own camera and want to keep the earnest money. So instead of the earnest money going to the buyer, he says, okay, here's your camera, but I keep all your earnest money. If the buyer does not sign the seller's camera, can the seller still sue the buyer for damages? Well, the important part of the title of that document, mutual release, means if it's not signed by the buyer and the seller, they don't have a mutual release, and therefore the seller may sue the buyer. If they sign the mutual release, they are releasing one another from all liability, so the seller can't sue the buyer. So by not signing it, the buyer's camera, it keeps that whole active. So let's go to the next slide. Trying to whip through these a little bit. A licensee, and this is, stop, listen. A licensee may not give the seller legal advice on whether to sign the camera. And I've gotten so many instances and phone calls where the agent is asking, now what do I do? I told the seller to sign the camera and I'm going, yeah, well, you really can't be in a position to tell the seller one thing or the other. You can't. The best thing that I do is direct them to the offer because all the answers are in the offer. But the seller, because we can't give them legal advice, they have to look for a private legal counsel. And that lawyer may say that you can proceed with a transaction with a second buyer. I'll make it okay for you to go ahead and get another offer and accept it. This second offer may proceed to closing without the first earnest money being resolved. And therefore, if the camera was never signed by both parties, the seller may want to sue the first buyer for actual damages, including earnest money. The second offer with this new buyer has to close to determine the measure of damages. So say the first transaction was set for $375,000. That buyer is getting out. The seller will not sign the camera and moves on to a second buyer. That second buyer has to close and say it eventually closed for $350,000. That is the measure of damages, would be the difference between $350,000 and $375,000, $25,000. So the seller could actually sue for earnest money plus the $25,000. And I've lived through a situation like this, so I know it well. A buyer from Chicago just refused to come to closing, was a jerk. And we sold it again, and the difference between the two prices was the successful lawsuit that my seller got. The parties have a variety of remedies if one party defaults. And this is what I tell most of the people who call in on this question. Go to the offer, go to the lines 278 to 288 in the offer to purchase, residential offer to purchase. And it spells out exactly what happens if buyer defaults, and then what happens if seller defaults. You don't have to be a lawyer to tell them the what ifs or the problems that they may be going into. You just say, read here, and read it carefully, because this is the situation we're in. And then encourage that party to seek legal counsel. Next slide. So the final solution is the listing firm must deliver written notice to the parties of its intention to disperse based on the attorney's opinion. So the attorney cannot be represented by either party. Now, this is where nobody has reached a solution. Buyer and seller are not agreeing to anything. The earnest money is still sitting in the trust fund, and we want to move on. So the firm gets to hire an attorney that is not representing either party. Notice of this shall be delivered by certified mail to the parties' last known addresses, and shall state to whom and when the disbursement will be made. The firm may not disperse earlier than 30 days after that notice is sent. So this is the final thing if nobody can reach a resolution about where the earnest money goes. I also want to bring up that small claims court does resolve earnest money disputes between the parties, and there's no limit to the amount of earnest money. There's a limit to the amount of small claims, but for earnest money, it could be, $50,000 earnest money and still go to small claims. So this is not a nice topic, but I think it's something to tuck in your brain for when it does come up, and always give Steph or give me a call when you're in this situation. But it is a standstill, and it's not a pleasant one.
It happens more than you may realize.
Yeah.
And I think the important thing to note on this, because we get the angst of it when we get this jerk who calls us, in Joni's terms, is we have to wait 30 days after notice. And, us sitting on money we don't really want to sit on creates angst amongst parties in the transaction. So if you have situations like this, reach out to Joni and Steph and they'll help you work through it. Cool? Sheriff Reed, to protect and serve. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thanks. All right. So I'm going to recap something for you, okay? Around fundamental truths. And this is going along the lines of yesterday. There was a lot shared yesterday. If you're like me, it probably I took about 8 pages of notes in a variety of different things. And Jeff was kind of a little bit all over the board, I thought. But if you followed his commentary, there were some really good nuggets in there. Okay. And what he shared with you was systems, models, and what you project. Systems, models, and what you project. Okay. And I want to boil this down as to how you should be thinking about the conversations that were had yesterday, because there were 210 of you in the room. Okay. And here's what I know. In Jeff's conversation yesterday, in the room that was had, there's my, again, continued showing up in the most appropriate way possible, is there's 4 fundamental truths of being a listing agent. And if you haven't been thinking about what you need to do to shift your business to be 60, 70% listings now more than ever, you need to wake up, okay? Because the changes within the industry are forcing that change, okay? 1, your job, the 4 fundamental truths of being a listing agent is this: secure the listing. 2, market the listing. 3, sell the listing. 4, market the sale. Okay, within the 4 fundamental truths of being a listing agent, Jeff shared some things with you, and I correlated it to the 4 fundamental truths of being a listing agent so that you can understand what it is that he shared with you and how it correlates to what it is that you do. 1, secure the listings. He shared his system around the 5 reach outs from appointment set to appointment time. How does he ensure that when he sets the appointment, that when he shows up, that the person is going to be there, and that his listing appointment is 35 minutes or less, and he leaves with a signed listing contract? Okay. 2, market the listing. He had a whole conversation around content creation and institutional marketing. Are you understanding the differences between the two and how both play into your strategy? 3, and I'm only reading this for you because I'm being very intentional for the other 400 that chose not to attend on a Monday afternoon. Okay. 3, sell the listing. Are you mastering your sales skills, and are you understanding the communication styles? And he walked through the communication styles of how you mirror and match, and those that list at a high level are able to mirror and match within an instant. Okay. And there was an interesting little nugget in there because someone challenged him around his 35-minute listing presentation. And he said, the longer you're in the seller's home, the higher the likelihood you're going to say something that is going to get you in trouble. Say what you need to say and get the hell out. Okay. 4, fundamental truths around being a listing agent is market the sale. And he talked around the 2-to-1 checklist. 2-to-1 checklist, 2-to-1 checklist. And it brought up a really good memory for me because it reminded me that we haven't talked about this in over a year. As a listing agent, you have to remember these are your 4 fundamental responsibilities. And if you're doing this really, really well, multiplication helps you scale faster than manufacturing. What I mean by that is I see far too many agents in southeastern Wisconsin get a listing, throw the listing up the same day they get the listing contract, they get it accepted within 24 hours, and then they totally shot themselves in the foot on what they can do to leverage that inventory in order to continue to build their business and build their scale, right? And so are you tracking your ratios to understand that all of your listings must have babies?
I have an appointment at
All of
10.
your
I was hoping
listings
I could
must
just
have
soak.
babies. Okay. Give me 1 sec.
Jill?
Yep. Got you, Jill. All right. All of your listings must have babies. You have to have a 12-to-2 ratio. For every listing you take, for every 12 contacts you make, you should get 2 pieces of business. It's not 6-to-1. It's 12-to-2. Okay. Because the 2 that you should be getting for every listing you take is, are you getting 1 referral and are you getting 1 repeat client with what you do? Are you tracking this and are you understanding as to where your business comes from? Understanding your ratios is highly important. And if you aren't, you are shooting yourself in the foot as to how you create scale. So, couple things to note. I provided some general notes and I'm not going to go into all his systems and models, but there were some things yesterday that I think is worth repeating because I need to absolutely plant this seed in your head and these seeds need to take root. First, the person who learns how to speak to the most amount of people every day will win the game. Just embrace it. It's a contact sport. Okay. 2, if you did not go on an appointment today, seriously, what did you accomplish? Okay. There's the old phrase that Tiger Woods talks about all the time, okay? Success breeds complacency. Complacency breeds failure. Only the paranoid survive. Only the paranoid survive. If I did not go on an appointment today, seriously, what did I accomplish? 3, are you maximizing the ROI of your time? This hit me on the forehead like a ton of bricks. 1, the average time it takes to transact one buyer is 38.5 hours on average. The average time to transact one seller is 19 hours. You have 2x faster return on your investment working with listings than you do with buyers. 3, you have to be better understanding of your ratios. I talked about the 12-to-2 ratio. How are you multiplying your business instead of manufacturing your business? What does it look like, and how do you leverage the inventory you have in order to build more scale? Why? You have to understand your ratio so that you can improve, understand where your gaps are, understand where you're falling short, and it improves your credibility. Think about it like this. He talked not a lot about buyers, but there was something that nugget I pulled from yesterday. He talked about what's your accepted offer to offers written ratio. If you want to continue to win on the buyer side, not that I want to focus too much on the buyers, but how many offers are you writing for your client for every time it gets accepted? In today's environment where it seems like a lot of people are writing a lot of offers, you know, you're going to want to know that stat. He talked about stats and ratios are incredibly important because it helps you provide your credibility. Great agents have the ability and discipline to keep following up even when there is no response. The discipline to continue to follow up even when there is no response. And you need to cut your response times in half. If the client says reach out in 2 weeks, you reach out in 1. If the client says reach out in 10 days, reach out in 5. If the client says reach out in 2 months, you reach out in 1. Cut your response times in half. Give a reason of value as to why you're reaching out. Hey, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I know you said to reach out in 2 weeks. However, I wanted to make you aware that this property at XYZ Main Street came on the market. Did you notice that came up? Let's talk about it. It's a comparable sale, yada, yada, yada. Make sense? Now, I share with you a lot of the things in terms of the systems and models and things that he gave away yesterday, the 2-for-1 checklist, all around how do you ensure picking up and checking the list of the variety of things that you can do to multiply your business. Here were the 10 ways. And we are going to download all the resources he shared with you and post it on the KW Realty MKE website. Okay. Same thing around, he didn't go deep into this, but I noticed that it was within his presentation around the topics around content creation, what it is that you post, how do you create social media, how does your brand, what does your institutional marketing look like? And he created the social posts as to what that looks like and how do you do it in terms of generating ideas. All of this, everything he talked about yesterday, we are going to download to you into one central hub and provide that to you on the KW Realty MKE Agent Hub. Make sense? Lindsay said some of it's already there. Make sense? Lot of content all around systems and models. Here's the last thing I would leave you with yesterday. And I think that he maybe glossed over this a little bit. And I think it's incredibly important in today's environment. And I need you to really help understand this, okay? Because I know many of you have big goals and big desires. We're in an incredibly interesting time in a global, social, economic environment, okay? It is 2024. It's an election year. There's a lot of shit that's going on. And I think sometimes people lose sight or their emotion gets the best of them and they might share a little too much that inhibits their ability to continue to grow. And when things are going on in the world, you have to learn that sometimes it's better to learn how to shut up so you don't shoot yourself in the foot. He didn't say that. This is my own words of being very direct with you, okay? But here's what I know. And I'm going to share with you 2-3 things that came up as it correlates to what he shared. Buyer interviews on the home. I shared this with you back in March around the profile of home buyers and home sellers, okay? And here's what I know. 88% of time, buyers interview 2 agents. 71% of the time, buyers only interview 1 agent. If 71% of the time, buyers only interview 1 agent, Their mind has been determined before they walked into the buyer consultation with you. Let's go to sellers. Seller interviews. Okay. 93% of the time, 93%, it's almost guaranteed they will pick someone if they interviewed 2 agents. 81% of the time, sellers only interviewed 1 agent. 81% of the time. Their decision has been made before you walked into their home. And Jeff yesterday spoke on something that I don't think he hit home enough, but I want to reiterate to this group because there's a lot of funkiness in our world right now. And this is what Jeff said. All of your clients are doing research on you before the appointment. All of your clients are doing research on you, personally and professionally. Who are you and what are you about? And the sign that's in their front yard represents who they are as well. You are known by the company you keep. Most likely, the decision on whether you list their home or whether they work with you to buy something has been made in advance before you even walked in the door. The appointment is to ensure and to create confidence or solidify the decision to call you. And how you project yourself personally and professionally matters now more than ever. Don't get it twisted. It's shocking to me people lose sight of this, and it is shocking to me what people do and say on Twitter, Instagram, social media, and then it's shocking to me when they come to me and say, I can't break through a certain price point ceiling. I can't, my business is going backwards. I don't understand why people aren't calling me. I'm doing the activities. And I say, you know, maybe that scantily clad photo on the beach with like, you know, whatever, or,
Sorry, it was a moment.
I'm just giving people shit. No, but for real, you got to be careful about what you project into the world because the decisions are being made before you put it out there. Okay. And the sign in their yard represents you're known by the company you keep. So this was pulled from Value Squared, and I thought it was a great reminder. It's kind of a wrap up to the conversation that was had with Jeff yesterday. And I think just based on where the world is today, I would just wanted to repeat it. The seller client experience is the impression formed through every interaction. Every interaction, from getting the listing agreement to closing the sale, the client experience is made up of 3 ingredients around their selling journey. What happened on it, what they think about it, and how they feel about it. And remember, how you design the seller client experience during these moments is a reminder of 3 ways they experience you. How you appear, how you act, and how you communicate and interact. How you appear, how you act, and how you communicate and interact. Incredibly important, okay? I share that with you just to say, look, there's a lot of things going on in the world, and we just have to make sure that you aren't doing anything that would prevent you from continuing an opportunity to earn what you desire within this business. Make sense? Cool. So with that, I'll wrap it up with a few ways of how you can file your axe in order to chop wood and carry water. First, accepted offer insights. This is week 3. I'm not going to go through the first 2 weeks. Here's week 429. There were 112 accepted offers last week with an average price point of 410. The list price to accepted offer ratio was 103.14%. Okay. Earnest money was at 1.87% at around 7,800, knowing that the average transaction was 410 last week. Inspection contingency, 43% yes, 57% no. 27% of deals were cash, 73% were financed. The average down payment increased slightly last week to 16.8%. Percentage of deals that had appraisal gaps was 18%, and the average appraisal gap offered was $7,800. Now that I have this information for 3 weeks, what I'm going to start doing is I'm going to create a running list of averages by month and then compare it on a 1-week basis to see if there are any sort of abnormal trends. Because now as you start to see 3 weeks of data, remember 1 week's an anomaly, 2 weeks is a trend, 3 weeks you start to see data in a longer period of time. Now that we know, like, look, you're basically saying it's a 60-40 ratio. 60% of offers don't have an inspection, 40% do, just as round math, right? 70% of deals are financed, 30% are cash. The average down payment is 16.8%. Like, as we start to look at this, then it will allow me to look at this on a weekly basis to compare it against a broader time to then tell you that if something triggers quickly, I can say, hey, look, inspections are back in the game or inspections are no longer in the game. Hey, all of a sudden people are leveraging, let's just say, call a spade. Cash deals are increasing because they're leveraging other people's capital. That happens, right? And so as we start to compare trends versus over a certain period of time, we'll do that. And I'm still consolidating the data on a zip code basis. There's just a lot of zip codes and we need a lot more deals in order for me to get you better insights on a zip code basis. Make sense? Cool. And if you have any feedback or you need to see anything else within this data, feel free to shoot it to us because we're trying to figure it out in real time. Yes.
What's this in price?
Yes, splitting it in price point. Yes, I needed more data to do that so that I can create price point bands to give you better information. So now that we have, let's just call it 300 deals, it's better than looking at 70 deals. Make sense? So the more robust data I have in this as we're tracking it, the more robust insights I can get you based on location or price point bands. Cool. And the price point bands, just so you guys know, they'll probably be 0 to 350, 350 to 750, 750 and above. I'll start looking at all that. Cool. Love it. Appreciate all the insights, feedback, and we're looking to give you all what you need to be successful. With that, May training calendar has come out. Handful of things to note. Red Day is coming up on May 9th. Offices are closed for Memorial Day on the 27th. No team meeting on the 28th. With that, a lot of activities for you in the month of May to plug into. Okay. Second, Scott is hosting a Zoom meeting tomorrow at 2 different times around the golden handoff strategy for exiting the industry. That's a mouthful. The average age of a GMAR associate, anybody know? 59 and a half. 59 and a half is the average associate in Southard. Average.
Thank you.
Southeastern Wisconsin. If you think about in the next 5 to 10 years, there's going to be a lot of people exiting the business. How you help transition that will help you understand what you can do to take advantage of those that exit out. Okay. Email marketing. Emily Fair is an incredible person at learning from. Why? She understands the MOFR. I get the fair hint in emails. It's interesting. I always read the subject line. I'm like, damn, she got me again. I got to look at it. It's a fresh take on an old classic. Doing that this week, next week, Wednesday at noon, if you want to understand. It was so good. I don't know if I should put this out there. She had a MOFR that was so good. She got investigated by the state of Wisconsin because someone turned her in because they were, intrigued, let's just say. All right. MREA notes. I've been talking about this for the last several weeks. And then lastly, new news is we've talked about building out a series and helping you pivot and shift fast. In that spirit, James Shaw is coming to Milwaukee on June 5th at our new favorite location, the War Memorial. It is Wednesday, June 5th. He will be here live in person. And again, we are continuing to amp up our intensity and frequency of offering you at a variety of trainings to help you move fast in the way the industry is headed. Make sense? So feel free to register. James is an incredible person. He leads an incredible network and a community of people who are inspired. And lastly, Willis wants me to let you know, 5 and 5's coming out this week with Deja. Oh, I think the world needs to know, can you shake, do you have the good, no, the good vibes, like Willis did this good vibes thing on Friday that went. All right, here we go. All right, so guys, it's a beautiful day in Milwaukee. It's April 30th. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, reach out to the leadership teams. We're here to serve you. Thanks for showing up, guys.